What is going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Monday night has just ended. You guys will probably be seeing this tomorrow for most of you, but there's going to be an overall looming question. All right. Where does the playoff picture stand after week 13? There were some teams that moved closer. There were teams that jumped into playoff picture from the NFC. Green Bay. It has been wild, and it is getting more and more crucial as the weeks go on. So, figured I'd bring you guys a bonus episode with the current playoff picture the way it is now. Okay, so with the current playoff picture, and I'm gonna pull it up for you right now. With the current playoff picture, you see that Miami now has the number one seed. If Jacksonville would have won, they would have had the number one overall seed, or number one overall seed and home field advantage. So we're gonna take a look there at the Jaguars' remaining schedule to see if maybe they can get that ground back that they lost by being upset by the Bengals. And we'll talk about what that means for the Bengals in a little bit. So for Miami, who's the current number one seed, they do have tough games at the end of the year. I believe Buffalo and Dallas. Buffalo might be playing for something. We'll get there. Okay. But for the Jags, right, they play Cleveland. You could say that's definitely not an easy game, but a game that they should win with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And then Baltimore. This is Sunday Night Football in 2 weeks. I think this is going to be a really important game because after Baltimore, the Jags play Tampa, Carolina, and Tennessee. Now, Tampa might be playing for the NFC South. You know that that's going to be a nail biter, but I think that the final three games are very winnable, and I think Cleveland next week is winnable. So I think this is a Jaguar game that could end up, I will say, getting one more loss, worst case scenario, two. But I think they only get one more loss. If it doesn't happen in Baltimore, it'll be a weird upset at Tennessee. Something will happen. They're going to lose at least one game. So that would put them at 12-5. And for Miami, they're going to have a lot of easy games. So I think Miami and the Jags are both going to end up being tied. I think Miami loses probably two more games, but they control their own destiny, and they do have a lot of easy games coming up for Miami. And the people have been really critical of Miami, saying, "Oh, they don't beat good teams." Well, that's not going to change in the next couple of weeks because the Dolphins don't necessarily have a hard stretch coming up. So the game that we just saw was they're playing the Commanders. They got the Titans next week. That's a win. Jets. That's a win. Okay, but then you got the Cowboys and the Ravens. So the Ravens also may be playing for something. Now, I think that there's a good chance that Week 17 game, Ravens Dolphins. I think there's a good chance that whoever wins that game will be the number one overall seed. That might be the tiebreaker. Okay, so Miami very well could win out, and that would be the tiebreaker. But what about the Ravens? Because we're just assuming the Ravens are going to not, lose any more games. Well, let's take a look. They got the Rams on Sunday. I think this is going to be a difficult game just because the Rams are playing for playoffs. Okay. Then they have the Jaguars, as we just discussed. Then the 49ers. Then the Dolphins. The Ravens have perhaps one of the worst final stretches if you're cheering for them to win. Definitely not a stretch that I would want to go down. They will be battle tested by the end of it, and I think we'll have a good idea who the Ravens are. But they didn't look that great when we saw them last on Sunday night playing the Chargers, and these are going to be very, very tough games coming up. I think the Ravens. My prediction is that the Ravens are going to lose. I'm going to say three more games, and then they're going to end up 11-6. Okay, so Miami, just based on strength of schedule and the fact that Jacksonville lost tonight, it's going to be really tough. Jacksonville's going to have to win out, and you're going to need to hope that the Cowboys take care of business when they play the Cowboys week 17 or 18. Okay. So as far as these teams, though, Dolphins and Ravens, they're not going anywhere. They're going to be there. But I don't think the Ravens come away with the number one seed just based on how difficult that schedule is. Now the Kansas City Chiefs, they are not the Kansas City Chiefs that we have grown accustomed to in the last couple of years. They've taken L on Sunday Night Football, 19-27. They lose to the Green Bay Packers. Okay, you could say, oh, that every year Kansas City loses a bad game. Remember last year they lost to Tennessee. We're seeing Kansas City struggle in ways that we're not used to. I think it's time to accept the fact that this is still going to be an above average team because of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But this is not a team right now that looks like they're ready to compete for a Super Bowl, in my opinion. Okay? They do have a good get right game next week against New England. I think they win that. Then they got the Raiders. I think they win that. Cincinnati, win. Chargers, win. So even on a down year, even on a down year, when you look at this Chiefs team, you go, okay, they're 8-4 right now. Gotta believe that they're gonna somehow end up being 13-4. And the Chiefs, I swear, if the Chiefs end up being the number one seed, it's gonna be insane. If the Chiefs win out, they'll be rooting uh, for some teams to lose. Now, remember, the Chiefs beat Miami in Germany. So we talk about the Dolphins having a really easy schedule. Now, let's say they drop, I don't know, the Cowboys game or the Bills game. If they drop one of those games, then the Chiefs, if they win out, will end up being, tied with the same record, both 4 losses. The Chiefs would be the number one seed because of the tiebreaker. The Chiefs definitely, even though it seems dark, it seems bleak right now, everything the Chiefs really want to accomplish, including home field advantage throughout the playoffs, starts right now. And I do think the Chiefs win out the rest of their games, and that'll really, really, really help them out. But you just gotta hope that the Ravens and Dolphins start losing, and that's what Chiefs fans are going to be hoping for. Now, let's talk about these Jacksonville Jaguars, who right now they have bigger problems than the fact that they lost the game plan. They have a Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence went down with an injury today, and we don't know what the severity of it is. He did walk up the field, but that is Jacksonville's entire season. So we're still going to talk about the Jags, even though uh, you know, we don't know what his health is like. He being hate and invented that shit. There's nothing wrong with Google. Stick with Google. All right, here we go. Jag. All right, so the Jaguars. See, Google's awesome. You can just do Jags. They don't even have to do Jaguars. Okay, so they lost tonight. Okay. Browns, Ravens, Bucks, Panthers, Titans. I mentioned that in the very beginning. Okay, because I wanted to circle back to this. The Jaguars, with the fourth loss now, the Chiefs also have 4 losses. The Chiefs are going to win out. They end up 13-4. Now, when we look at the Jaguars, if they win out, they're going to be tied. And remember, the Chiefs beat Jacksonville week 2 in Jacksonville. That was a game I went to. So the Chiefs win out. They end up 13-4. The Dolphins lose one game, which they're probably going to lose to the Cowboys. They're also 13-4. And the Ravens, they're not going to be 13-4. Like I said, the Ravens schedule is absolutely brutal. But I think the main point here that I'm trying to make is that the Chiefs have the tiebreaker over all of the teams that could threaten to be the number 1 seed. They beat the Dolphins. I don't think the Ravens are going to be in the mix. And they beat the Jaguars. So, should Kansas City win out, I think there's a very good chance that they end up with the number 1 seed, and everybody's gonna be like, "Didn't Kansas City suck this year? How did how did this happen? How did we get here? How did Kansas City somehow still end up with home field advantage in the playoffs?" Well, remember this game because it is all about strength of schedule. It's all about tiebreakers, and for Kansas City, I think things are gonna be good. Now the Steelers are an interesting team, okay? Steelers are an interesting team because the Steelers are kind of phonies. They're not great, but they have a really solid record. They're in the playoffs. Okay, they got blown out by a 2-win team. The Cardinals came in and beat them, and it wasn't very close. I I don't know what to make of this Steelers team, man. I mean, they have their moments where, um, they beat the Ravens, but man, there's just a lot of ugly wins here. The Rams without Stafford. They lost by double digits to the Jags. They beat the Titans by 4. They beat Green Bay when, they were still trying to figure out how to use Love and all that. Obviously, Green Bay's gotten a lot better in the last couple of weeks, but they beat Green Bay by 4. The Browns beat them 10-13. Um, Last week, Joe Burrow was not on the Bengals, and a lot of people are saying, "Yeah, you beat a Joe Burrow-less Bengals team," but all of a sudden now we're looking at Browning, and we're saying, "Hey, this guy might not be that bad," which tells me the heart and soul of this team is the defense, man. This defense is insane. The Texans were the only team, the Texans and the 49ers are the only 2 teams to score 30 points on the Steelers this year. The 49ers did it, week 1, 30-7, just a good old-fashioned can of whoop ass, and then the Steelers got right, beat the Browns, beat the Raiders, and the Texans just smoked them. Okay. I don't think the Steelers are a playoff team. As far as their record goes, they are. I'm personally, as a Broncos fan, I'm hoping that the Steelers start losing, okay? Next week, they're playing the Patriots. Get right. Okay, then the Colts. I think that's an L, okay? So we're talking about a team, Steelers team, that is 7-5. Okay, so that would make them 7-6 after assuming they beat the Patriots. They would be 7-5, 8-5, and they'd be 7-6. Then the Bengals game. Okay, I think the Bengals could win this time around. And if they lose that, they go down to 7-7. Then the Steelers are playing the Seahawks. They're signing their 7-7. I think they win. Maybe the Bengals game 8-7, but then the Seahawks game in Seattle. I think we're looking at 8-8, and then here it is, Steelers Ravens, Week 18. I think I think Mike Tomlin ends up somehow with a winning season, but not with double-digit wins. I think it's gonna be the Steelers going 9-8, and I don't know if that's gonna be good enough to make the playoffs. So the Steelers right now currently the number 5 seed. The Colts are in the playoffs as the number 6 seed, okay? So I'm gonna say the Steelers go 8-9, okay? Now, the Colts remaining schedule. They have the Bengals are playing with some good momentum right now, and it's going to be in Cincinnati. If they win that game, then the Colts and Bengals will both be 7-6. Okay, they're going to play the Bengals, and then they are playing Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Okay, so let's see the Colts beat Pittsburgh. See, that's going to be a really important game. The Colts and the Steelers. I think the Colts can win. They are going to be at home just because the Colts can move the ball offensively and the Steelers can't. I think they end up winning that game. So just like that, you got 7, 8, and 2. These next 2 games for the Colts will determine everything. Not just for the Colts, but for the Bengals and the Steelers potentially, because this is in the hunt for the wild card round playing each other. So this is going to be really important. Now I think the Colts can beat the Steelers, and I think the Colts. Yeah, I don't know about this Bengals game. The Bengals just had a really good game. I'm going to take the Bengals here, and then basically everybody and their mother is going to be tied at 7-6 or 7-7. But then look, Atlanta, Raiders, and Houston. Atlanta's playing for the playoffs. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but they should win that game. They're a better team. But the Raiders, I think that's a dub. And then the Houston Texans, I think that's an L. So you got one, let me say, at least 2 losses on the board still. That would move them to 10-7 if they can beat Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and Las Vegas. They lose to Pittsburgh, that would put them at 9-8. So is 9-8 going to be enough to get in? Well, I think so for one team. I think so for one team. Okay, the Browns. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Browns because I really do believe that the Browns are about to start losing football games. The teams that I'm mostly worried about as far as being a Broncos fan, it's the Texans. I think the Texans right now are better than the Browns. I think they're better than the Colts, and I think they're better than the Steelers. But depending on what happened with Trevor Lawrence, I think they're better than the Jags. The thing is the Texans are getting better every single week, and I don't know if they've reached their full potential yet, but it's a really, really, really good Texans team, and I do think that they're going to make it into the playoffs. Their remaining schedule is not very hard. That's why I say I don't know if 9 wins is going to be able to get the job done. And I think there's going to be about 3 AFC teams that kind of plateau at that 9-win mark. The Jets, that's a win for Texans on Sunday. That's a dub. Then the Titans dub, Cleveland dub, Titans dub, Indianapolis. I don't know. That's gonna be a good game, but I don't think the Colts are going to be one game or tied with the Texans. All right, so I gotta believe that the Texans are gonna end up being 11-6. Okay, 11-6 might with the news that we just found out right about these guys right here, these Jaguars. That might be enough for the division for the number 4 seed. No, let's not act like it's that difficult. I mean, it's one game back. They're one game back, and we pulled up Jacksonville. You saw that there's tougher games for Jacksonville than there's for Texas. I do think the Texans are going to end up winning this division. Okay, so I think the Chiefs end up with the one seed. Okay, I think the Dolphins end up at number two. So it'll go Chiefs and Dolphins. I think the Ravens hang on to their division, but I think the Texans will have a better record at the end of the year. I think the Ravens lose at least two more games, and I don't believe the Ravens and Texans played, but I will verify. Ravens Texans game, and no, that game didn't happen. It didn't sound familiar. So Chiefs, Dolphins. Number three, I have Texans. Number four is going to be the Ravens. Five is probably going to be the Jaguars. Okay, I think the Steelers start losing. Now, Jaguars would fall to number five. So let's just get rid of the Browns for now. Okay, the Colts. I still think the Colts and the Steelers end up with around 9 wins. Okay, I think the Broncos. Their final games they got the Chargers and the Raiders and they have the Patriots. They do have a Detroit game in the middle of all that. I think it's very likely that they can win against the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Chargers, and lose to the Lions and be a 10-7 team. Okay, so yes, I'm a Broncos fan, but I've seen them beat Buffalo. I've seen them beat the Chiefs, Vikings on the streak. I've seen them beat Cleveland. I've seen them beat the Packers, who are playing good ball right now. I've seen this team beat much better opponents than Raiders and the Chargers do. The Chargers won 6-0 against the Patriots. So I think the Broncos end up 10-7. So I think you can insert Broncos at number 6. Okay. Now here's what's crazy. Buffalo. Is it too little, too late? Well, keep in mind that Buffalo's playing Kansas City next week. Kansas City, like I said, they need to win out. If they win out, I still got them at number one, the number one. But Buffalo needs to win in order to keep the playoff hopes alive, kind of. All right. Now, this is kind of the same thing we were saying about the Packers, where like the Packers need to win against the Chiefs. They're like, no, we don't. If you lose that game and they win the rest, they're still going to be a wild card team. Okay. Now that could be true for Buffalo. That 10-7 would get them in, so they can afford one more loss. But for Kansas City, they know that if they don't win out, Miami's going to end up having home field advantage. And by the way, if there's one team that you don't want to have home field advantage, it's the team that advantages the most with home field. The way Miami plays football, you want to be at home in Miami for those games. So let's look at Buffalo. They're playing the Chiefs, and they're playing the Cowboys. And they have the Dolphins in there too. The Chargers and Patriots are only two, I guess, easy-ish games, but you got to really start wondering: is it too little, too late for Buffalo to turn this around? I think it's a big ask. Buffalo, the only way I feel like you have any confidence at all, even though they played the Eagles really tough, I think the only way that you have confidence in Buffalo is if they beat the Chiefs. If they lose to the Chiefs, nobody's going to be like, oh, yeah, they lost to the Chiefs. I'm going to take them over the Cowboys and Dolphins now. Okay? That is why I think it's a must win. And I'm going to say right now, I think it's too little, too late for the Bills. Okay? So I think between 6 and 7, honestly, I think the Colts stay in, and the Browns would be the only team that falls out. And I guess you could say it's going to be either the Steelers or the Browns at number 7, okay? So as a refresher, we got the Chiefs at 1, Dolphins 2, Texans 3, Ravens 4, Jaguars 5, Broncos at 6, and at 7, it's either gonna be the Browns or the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, I don't know what's going on with Kenny Pickett right now. I don't love whoever's gonna be at the 7 seed, but it's gonna be probably an AFC North team, okay? So that's my predictions of how the next couple weeks are gonna go. And as you can see, every single number is different, from what I'm predicting to what we're currently seeing here. Now, if we move to the NFC, the Eagles have won, okay? The 49ers winning that game is absolutely huge. The Eagles win, they're 11-1, the Niners are 8-4, and what a difference, right? It's a 4-game swing. All of a sudden, the 49ers getting the dub. They're only 1 game back, and they beat the Eagles, which means if they end up with the same record, the 49ers have the tiebreaker over them. That is a monster win. So, if you're a 49ers fan, what you really wanna know is, are the Eagles going to lose again? Is that possible? Well, for the Eagles' schedule, it's going to be not too easy. They got Dallas on Sunday Night Football coming up. Okay, that's gonna be a great game. Dallas is playing really good football, and the 49ers may find themselves cheering for Dallas in this game. Okay, then they play the Seahawks, okay? Now, it is in Seattle on Monday night, so I think that's gonna be a really hostile environment, hard game to win. Philly should be able to get the win, but this is not one that is like, "Yeah, they win that." They might, but I'm not checking that box right away. Giants and Cardinals, yes, they win, and then they got the Giants again at the end. So, the way I see it, I think that if they beat Dallas, then I think you can make a really good argument that the Eagles are going to end up being 15-2 if they beat the Cowboys. I'm gonna say that they lose 1 or 2 more games. So I think that the Cowboys can get that win, and I think the Eagles end up finishing somewhere around 14-3. The 49ers, can they finish 14-3? 'Cause all they need is the tiebreaker. And right now, look, I'm pulling up their schedule, but I'm telling you right now, I almost don't even care who the 49ers are playing. I really do think they can beat everybody. They're the best team in the NFL right now. I mean, look how bad they beat who most people had as the best team in the NFL, the Eagles. They smoked them, and it wasn't even close. It was like they were on a whole another league. They're gonna beat Seattle, they're gonna beat the Cardinals, they beat the Ravens, they beat the Commanders, they beat the Niners. I think 49ers win out and end up with the number 1 seed in the AFC. Okay? That's hardly a bold prediction after the way they play. So there's another team that's like, "Hey, what about us?" Right? The Lions. Because is there a chance the Lions could be the number 1 seed? If the Ravens beat the 49ers and let's say that, frickin' Philly loses a couple, it's possible. It is possible. So let's see what's left for Detroit. I already mentioned the Broncos game, which is gonna be a really important game for us. But besides that game, they hit the Bears. That's a win. Broncos. I think they're gonna play them tough. I think the Vikings is easy. The Cowboys game all of a sudden becomes massive because the Cowboys at 9-3 are at the 5 seed. But if they beat the Eagles, I think they would have the tiebreaker. They would have to go through points, and the Cowboys have the biggest point differential in the league. So if they beat the Eagles and the Cowboys end up at the number 1 seed, the Lions are going to have an opportunity to beat the Cowboys, which gives the Lions the tiebreaker over the Cowboys. Okay? That is very, very big. Now, this game is going to be in Dallas, so I think I'm not going to predict that right now. Let's just say it's going to be hard. But what I really wanted to paint a picture of is that the Lions are going to have their fair opportunity to be the 1 seed in the NFL. They're going to have their chance. The Eagles, of course, control their own destiny. Dallas, with a tough win on Sunday, is going to go up to that number 1 seed. If the Lions just continue to win, they're going to find themselves in position week 17 to take the number 1 seed on Sunday Night Football at 7:15 p.m. Central Time. Because I just don't know if the Vikings twice and the Bears, I think those are all done. The Broncos, I'm hoping, right? But I think the Lions win that game. I hope Denver wins, but the Lions are at home. It's going to be a very tough game. It's a night game, Saturday game, and then the Cowboys. But if all Detroit does is win out, they're going to end up being the number 1 seed. So I think between the Eagles, the Niners, the Lions, and the Cowboys, you have your number 1 seed. Okay, I'm not going to bother making a prediction on the Cowboys Eagles because me and Rick are going to do that on the predictions episode Thursday after Thursday Night Football. But this is going to be very important. And then we kind of get into the NFC South, which is kind of a shit show. So the NFC South brings plenty of opportunity uh, for for anybody to kind of get in that division. Tampa, Atlanta, you got Panthers are the only team definitely not resurrecting, and the Saints. Okay, so right now, as it stands, this is that's not. Oh, that's okay. Here we go. So as it is right now, Tampa Bay is number 1 in the division, 8-9. What year is this? 2022. Why the F would you pull that up? Okay, here's 2023. Carolina 1-11. They're done. New Orleans 5 wins. Tampa 5 wins. Both 5-7. Atlanta with a 1 game lead, 6-6. Now I'm not going to bother going through Atlanta, Tampa, and the New Orleans schedule because between them three, I'm sure they're going to play each other plenty of times. Atlanta has only played 3 division games. Tampa's only played 3 divisional games, and well, every team has only played 3 divisional games. Okay, so there's a lot of divisional games coming up, and if you just look in this division, who's the better team? Well, the Saints have the most points on the season, 257. Um, Tampa's in second, 233, and Atlanta, 226. But if you look up points against, Atlanta's defense is doing better than everyone's defense. Carolina's given up a shit ton. Then you have the Saints in second, or I guess in third, Tampa in second, and Atlanta. So yes, Atlanta has been my favorite all season. Yes, they don't score the most points uh, out of these teams. They score the third most points, but I think their defense it makes up for it. If you look up, I think they have point differential here. I think net points, yeah. So the Saints are actually +2. Atlanta's -14 and Tampa's -12. That's a very good metric to see how good a team is. The Panthers are -122. Yikes. I mean, that just means you're getting blown out every single week. Denver's -39 because they lost by 70. But stats are misleading. I think Atlanta comes out of this division, but nobody feels good about their prediction. in this division. Nobody does. Okay. Moving on, we talked about the Cowboys already. That's going to settle itself. God, pray for whoever has to play the Eagles or Cowboys in the wild card round because somebody is going to get the wrath of why am I playing the Panthers? Um, it won't be the Panthers, but you get it. It'll be Tampa or Atlanta and or the Saints. Vikings. I think they keep losing. Okay, I I think the Dobbs story was fun, and I'm not a hater. I love the story, but I just never bought in. You look at the Vikings and the way they were winning their football games, playing defense. They're not an impressive football. They went on a good streak, very similar to Denver. Denver by no means is like a team that nobody wants to. I don't believe that as much as I want to believe that. I feel like the Vikings are kind of the same thing, but at least in Denver's 5-game winning streak, there was very tough opponents in there. When the Vikings went on their streak, they beat teams like the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers. They beat the Falcons by 3, and they beat the Saints. Very, very winnable, easy-ish games. But you see, when they played the Chiefs, they lost. When they played the Eagles, they lost. I really think the Vikings are frauds. And I think they can beat the Raiders. But who knows? This team's in Las Vegas. AP really needs one for that team, man. That team was fighting really hard, and then they came up short in Miami. That was their first loss under him. I think they're going to want to play good ball and not just start losing games like Jeff Saturday did with the Colts. The Bengals, the Lions, the Packers, and the Lions. Lions twice. Packers, I'll take the Packers over them right now with who loves playing. I'll take the Bengals over them right now. I think their only winnable game, to be totally honest, is the Raiders game coming up on Sunday. So with that said, I think the Vikings finish the season 7-10, so we can say goodbye to the Vikings. Packers, I think they get in. I really do. Um, Packers are playing good ball right now. They obviously just beat the Chiefs. They're going to have some easy games coming up. They have the Giants and the Bucks and the Panthers and the Vikings and Bears. I just don't know which of those teams is better than the Packers. I just don't have one. So the Packers somehow, I think, end up 11-6. I'll say 10-5 or 11-6. 10-7 would be their floor, and I do think that that's going to be enough to go up to the number 6 seed. Remember, they're not going to get this 5 seed. This will go to either the Cowboys or the Eagles, just like last year. So there's only 2 spots available. The NFC South, we already talked about that. I'm not going to include any of those teams in the wild card. Only one team will get in. And then you're going to have the Cowboys or the Eagles here. Packers, they go right here as a 10-11 win team. So who does that leave at number 7? The Rams, the Seahawks. Okay, those are it. And I'm not messing around with the Bucks and the Saints. If they can win their division, whatever, it's going to go to the Rams or the Seahawks. Okay, now the Rams had a really, really impressive game 2 weeks ago against the Cardinals, and they all of a sudden have their playoff hopes alive. Can they make it through without losing too many games? Well, they got the Ravens, so I don't know. By the way, the Ravens didn't look great against the Chargers, but they're coming off a bye at home. Ravens are probably going to win. And then Commanders, Saints, Giants, and then the 49ers. I think they go 3-2 in their final 5 games. which will bring them up to a 9-8 record. And remember that 9-8 number, okay? Because that is what we're going to be comparing with the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the other team for that seventh spot, okay? The 49ers are going to beat the Seahawks, okay? Then they have the Eagles and Titans, Steelers, Cardinals are probably winnable games. I'm going to say the Seahawks go 3-2, and I think they lose their next two as well. So if they're both 3-2, who has the tiebreaker? The Rams. The Rams swept the Seahawks this year, and I do think that you're going to see both of these teams ending up 9-8, and the Rams having that tiebreaker over Seattle will hit that number 7 spot. So you're going to either have Cowboys or the Eagles, okay? 49ers could be the 1 seed. I know I did the 1, 2, 3 on the AFC. The NFC, I have no idea. Okay, I'll say the 49ers end up as the number 1 seed. And then number 2 is going to be Cowboys. Cowboys. Number 3, Lions. Number 4, Atlanta. Number 5, Cowboys or Eagles. Number 6 is going to be the Packers at 10-7 or 11-5. Just look at that remaining schedule. If you disagree, let me know. And then at number 7, Rams and Seahawks tied 9-8 apiece. The Rams get in at the number 7 seed and just miss out the playoffs. The whole Geno thing. Seattle will draft a quarterback once they miss the playoffs. And yeah, the teams that are not even really worth mentioning at this point in the season. You got Titans. It's such a shame. Aaron Rodgers was so ready to come back. The Jets, the 4-1 Commanders, Cardinals, the Patriots, the Giants, Bears, the Raiders. We'll see. Raiders and Chargers are both 5-7 right now, and I, I don't see a scenario where they can climb back in because even if it's like Denver loses a couple, I think the Texans don't, and we already went through all those those AFC teams, and I don't see a scenario when the strength of schedule is very favorable, like the Chiefs is. Um, it makes things a lot easier down the stretch. I will say, out of all these teams, the team with the hardest stretch was the who was it? I think it was the Ravens. Yeah, because I had the Ravens dropping from the 2 seed all the way to the probably the 4 seed. I think even the Texans I think will have a better record. So Chiefs 1, Miami 2. Insert those Texans, those CJ Stroud led Texans. This is going to be an incredible story, and I think it's a sign of things to come. I think CJ Stroud is going to be impressing us for the next decade or so. And as a franchise, brighter days ahead. And right now, you got to love it. You finally got a franchise quarterback. Like you've had some good ones. You had Carr, Schwab, but you've never had that guy. They got that guy right now. They got that coach right now. They got a star, in Will Anderson from Alabama, a star that they can build around. They have much, much, much better days ahead for sure. And I think this is the season that the Texans are going to end up winning their division because whatever's going on with Lawrence, I won't speculate, but I think even if Lawrence is healthy, I think Jacksonville is going to lose 1 game, 1 or 2 games. I would say 1 game with Trevor Lawrence without him, maybe 2 or 3. And I think the Texans are going to win all of their games, all their remaining games. It is a very favorable schedule. So it'll be really interesting. Of course, every week is more and more important. If you guys need somewhere to watch it, you can subscribe to our channel. We stream all day Sunday, Monday, Thursday. We do recaps. We do predictions. Me and my buddy Rick, we go through all of it. We do a lot of different segments, especially as we get closer to the playoffs. So definitely subscribe to the channel. If you're new, hopefully I included your playoff team in the playoff picture. Hopefully I didn't kick your favorite team out of the playoffs. If I did, sorry. I didn't kick my Broncos out, so that's kind of the luxury of being the guy doing this. But if you disagree with me, put it in the comments. I'd love to read those. And as always, please tell everybody about this channel. I can't wait to see all of you tomorrow. Me and Rick are doing our recap tomorrow. We can push that a little bit to the right. And I'm so excited for it. You guys have no idea. We got a really fun segment that we just made that we're going to be doing tomorrow. So definitely check it out. We'll be going 7 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock West Coast Time, 8 o'clock East Coast Time, and 6 o'clock Mountain Time. There you go. Every single time zone. As always, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next stream. Swoop!